one of the videos I have on router configuration, I taught a lot of things. I thought a lot of things beyond what is in the chapter. So in today's class, I just thought about it as okay, let me just teach this one again. So I will just limit myself to what is in the curriculum in this particular chapter. So if you take a look at chapter 10, it's talking about basic router configuration. Basic router configuration. Basic router configuration. Now, in chapter configuration. In is it chapter 2 or chapter 3? We did basic switch configuration. So in today's class, we want to do basic router configuration. And if you understand basic switch configuration and you have practiced it, it is also the same thing with the router. There's no difference for the basic parts. No difference. So before I go into the configuration proper, I just want to highlight what's the basic things we used to do, whether you're working with a switch or you're working with a router. So one of the things we used to do, number one on the line, it must not follow this order. You just need to be aware. You name your router. You name the router. We name the router or the switch. That's one of the things we do on the router. One of the things we do again on the router as part of our basic configuration, we can set the time on the router. Or we can say clock. That's one of the things we do. Another things we do on the router, the basic configuration, we can set what is called banner MOTD. Banner MOTD is like the information that people will see or you will see when you're first coming into the router. Something like, this is a secure device, keep off. This is a secure, unauthorized access is prohibited, something like that. So take note of that. Then another thing we can do on our router, basic configuration, which not we can do, which is very compulsory. We need to set password on the router. Passwords. Now, when I say you need to set password, it therefore means the first time you're accessing your router, you're not going to ask you for a password. You're going to see in today's class. The same thing with your switch, a brand new router or a brand new switch, or a router that you restarted or you reset. The first time you enter that device, it's not going to ask you for password. So it only makes sense for you to password that router. And when you are passwording the router, in our class, when we did switch configuration, I introduced you guys to this prompt, which is called user executive mode. We are going to see it in today's class. User executive mode. So before I get access to this environment, your router should ask for a password. Then by the time I'm trying to move from that mode to another mode, when I type enable, which we did when we did a switch, it will take me to another environment called privilege mode. The router should also ask me a password before giving me access to a privilege mode. So passwording your prompts, the environment, users mode and privilege mode is very important. The last one I think I'm going to talk about in today's class, which I didn't talk about under the switches, something called line VTY. Line VTY is a virtual terminal line. It's I want to say spiritual line. You know, all this one we talked about here. You remember we talked about our console ports. I'm going to still come to that today. Console ports or console connection. When you console into your router, it means you are with the router physically. And that is what is going to, when you put the password in the router, we used to say we put the password on the console port. What if you are not with the router physically? You are not in the server room and you still want to access that router. You can access the router as long as the router already has an IP address. You can access the router from anywhere within your organization or outside of your organization if the IP address is public IP address. And we're also going to come to that when we do IP addressing. You're going to hear us talk about private IP address. And we're also going to talk about public IP address. So if I have public IP address on my router, I can access the router. Even with some private IP address, we can do a mapping between public and private and use the public to come in, but the router will redirect us to private within. So that kind of environment, when you do not have to be with your device physically, you're coming in, you're not coming in through the console port, you're coming in through a virtual terminal lines, which we call line VTY. And so we're going to talk about line VTY and how we demonstrate that in today's class. And we use something called Telnet to access the router remotely. Remote access. I can access the router remotely. Now, in another class, I'm not going to tell you, guys, do not use Telnet, use SSH. So in today's class, I will just restrict this to Telnet. And of course, the last thing I will do on the router in today's class, I will put IP address on the router. Those are basic stuff that I'm going to do on the router. So these are part of basic configuration that we're going to do on our router. And don't forget, when I introduce you to the switch, everything I told you about the switch as far as operating system is concerned is the same thing with the router. The operating system that the router runs, and in this scenario now, or in this context, Cisco IOS, because it's Cisco's router we're talking about here. Other vendors have the names for their routers and their switches. But in this context now, we're talking about Cisco router, and the operating system that the router runs is called a Cisco IOS. And I also remember talking to you guys about all the hardware. The router has a RAM, the router has NVRAM, the router has a board. You know, normal computer, you say motherboard. The router has board. The router has ports. All those interfaces will connect to the network, and including the one we use to configure. What else is there? We have RAM, we have NVRAM, we have board. The router has a ROM. Basically, everything you can see in a regular computer. And that's why I told you this in that class when I taught you guys switch. Your router is a special purpose computer. Your switch is a special purpose computer. The main difference between your router and your regular computer is the operating system. But when it comes to hardware, they have almost the same thing. Like when you take a look at this NVRAM right now, that is one that is equivalent to your hard drive on your regular computer. So anything that is in the RAM, when we save it on the router, it comes into the NVRAM. So everything I told you guys as far as operating system of the router of the switch is concerned, is also applicable to the router. So please, you need to have all of this in mind. This is just like a preamble to the class before I start my configuration. So now, what do I want to do? I want to start configuring. I'm going to design a simple network. I'm going to just bring out a router. I hope you didn't forget the icon for our router. A router. And connect the router to a switch. And then plug one or two computers to the switch. So why will I want to connect this router to switch? Because I want to put an IP address on this interface. And I'm going to say some things when we get there. So I'm going to bring out a router and connect the router to the switch and connect the switch to the computer. Most organizations, this is just what they have. And this router now connect to the ISP to bring in internet connection. Most organizations, that's all they have. The router connects to the switch. The router connects to the service provider. And then the switch connects to the client. And in the case of wireless, all we need to do is to plug an access point here. Plug an access, put the access point, maybe you mount it on the ceiling or whatever. So people that have computers wirelessly, they can connect spiritually to the network through this access point. They don't need to plug to the switch. And that gives us a combination of what I call wired and wireless. Hey, Mr. Simon, don't mind me. It's true now, when you don't use cable, that's spiritual now, that's spiritual. And it works and it's not witchcraft, you know? So that gives us a combination of both wired and wireless network. And that is, we're not doing wireless today, just a basic router configuration. That's where we are going. So now, let's get to work. I'm going to design this, just a router. So I've launched my packet tracer before I came into the class. I'm just going to bring in all the things I need that are needed here. I'm going to bring in a switch, 2950, any switch can be used. I'm going to bring in, like, let's say 2 laptops. You can use desktop if you want. I'm also going to bring in a router. I'm a fan of, let me just use 4300 series. Now, I'm going to link all these devices together. Now, when I talked about cabling, I've talked about cabling briefly in one of our classes. I have computers to be connected to the switch. What kind of cable will I use to connect to the switch? In that class, I remember telling you guys that like devices, you use crossover. Unlike devices, you use straight through. Even though I later on told you that modern day technology, you can use any cable because of the technology called MDIX. So, but just for the purpose of emphasis, we have to use the right cable. So, computer to the switch, these are unlike devices. So, I'm going to use a straight through cable. So, this is my straight through cable down here. I'll click it. I'll click the computer. Where will I plug the cable? On the network card. Look at my network card here. Like what you do in the real world scenario. I'll take it to the switch. When I get to the switch and point at the switch has plenty ports. So I can just click the switch. Now, if you look at the first port on this switch here, it's showing me console port. That's not the port I'm going to connect to. That is the port that we used to configure. We used to configure switch when we had that switch configuration. But this time around, we're talking about data connection. So I will just connect to any of the fast internet ports or gigabit Ethernet. And I remember talking to you guys about the difference between some of these gigabit and all of that. So I'll connect to this. I'll click the cable again, go to the computer, connect to, okay, somebody is saying I should increase my volume. I'm on the highest. Is it the only one or others? Is everybody like having problem with my volume? Please let me know if you're also having problem with my volume. I'm on the highest. Maybe it's on your own end. You can ask question now, please. Just tell me what you, if you can hear me very well, please. So I am done designing this network. Now that I am done designing this network, what do I want to do, guys? I want to configure this router. Please pay attention to what I want to say now. I want to configure this router. How do I configure the router? I need a separate computer. I can use one of those computers network, but I don't want you guys to get confused. I need a separate computer that is not part of the network. That is not the network to configure this router. So when I bring out that computer, what do I need to do? Same thing we did on the switch. I need to establish a physical connection, which is called a console connection. I'll go back to my cable, carry console cable, connect it to this computer, click this port, that is a serial port, RS232. Take it to the router, click the router. Now look at the router, you can see console down here. Console port, auxiliary port are all called, including this USB console, they are all called management ports. They are referred to as management ports. So in today's class, we want to configure this router because this router has never been configured. We need to use the console port. So I'm going to connect this cable to the console port. That's the first thing we do when you want to configure any of these devices. You connect, you establish a physical connection. You establish a physical connection. And then I also remember telling you after the physical connection, what next? You establish what is called a logical connection. That was why I talked to you guys about PuTTY. I think I showed you guys, I can't remember if I showed you guys about PuTTY. PuTTY is one of the software we use to configure router or switch. You can see my PuTTY here. I can, if on this on this computer that is here, if I have PuTTY on that computer, I can use this to establish a logical connection. Now, there are other software out there that we can use to also establish a logical connection. For instance, you have, this can just keep my mind. Teraterm. We have Teraterm. Teraterm can be used to also configure the router or to set up a logical connection. But where we are in the packet tracer, they have given us something to simulate that real world experience. So if I go to my computer now that I want to use to do this configuration, I click this computer, I come to desktop, and then I come to terminal. This thing you are seeing here is the same thing you're going to see on some of those softwares that I mentioned. You're going to see it on TerraTime, all these settings. All these settings you see there. There's one I'm trying to remember. It used to be popular. It used to be inbuilt in Windows XP in those days when we were students. I can't remember that one. Let me just Google it. So what will I Google now? Just a minute. Let's say, let me say TerraTime alternative. Okay, we have Putty, we have Kitty. That's not the one I want to remember. We have let me see. I see TerraTime. I can't remember. And it's very popular in those days. We have it's just a minute, guys. Even though they have discontinued it right now, it's no longer in Windows. If you want to use iPadterminal, yeah, I remember now. iPadterminal, I remember now. So let me show you guys how it looks like. iPadterminal. iPadterminal. I think it's iPadterminal. Yes, iPadterminal. So look at how it looks. Let me give you the image. So this is how iPadterminal is very popular when we were students. When you first launch it, this is what you're going to get. Yes, thank you. I just remember now, iPadterminal. So look at it here. Can I expand this? So iPadterminal used to be very popular in those days. We use this every time we want to configure. We were not even used to TerraTime or even put it back then. This was inbuilt into Windows XP back in those days. So you can just check out iPadterminal. I just want to show you the settings. So you see some of the settings I'm talking about here. You can see the same settings on. Okay, good. So these are the when you start launching it. So this one I'm talking about. You can look at these settings here. All of these settings, bit per second, data bit, parity, stop bit, flow control. At the point in the process of establishing connection to your router or your switch, you're going to get to this place. So they've given us something like that in our packet tracer for us to simulate what's going on or what we do with some of those particular software. So that is what you are seeing in this place. So I'm going somewhere now. If I now press OK now, what is going to happen? I will be in my router. And guys, I'm in the router. I'm in the router. This is that it will just take me directly to the prompt. When I hit enter, this one is asking me, would you want to enter the initial configuration dialogues? What is that one all about? There is an environment where the router treats you like a babe. A babe in the sense that you don't know much. So it wants to help you out by just asking you a question. Which name do you want to give to this router? Which IP address you want to put on this interface? So that it will just be like question and answer session. and you are still doing configuration. But that's not what we want to do. We are big boys. We know what we want to achieve on this router. So I'm going to tell my router, I don't want it. Don't take me to that environment. I will type no. I will hit enter. Now the router will tell you, press return to get started. That return is enter again. I'll press enter again on my router. Ladies and gentlemen, I am in the router. And by the time you get into the router, for the name of the router is router. The default name you're going to see is router. But we cannot leave this name like that. We got to name our router. So you name your router based on the location where the router is situated. If you have more than one router in an environment, like for instance, in different departments, you make sure that there is a difference. Let's say University of Jos admin, University of Jos accounting, University of Jos computer science, something like that. You must just be able to differentiate. And one of the reasons you do that is if you need to log in remotely to access any of the routers, to work on any of the routers, you need to be able to know where you are. Because if all of them are just showing you router as their names, you don't know which one is which one. So there must be a distinction between all of these devices. So my router is router. I want to change the name. But guess what, guys? Where are we right now? By default, it brought us to this environment we call user executive mode. User executive mode. So now we're in user executive mode. How do we leave that environment? User executive mode. Sometimes we just say user exec mode. That is this your greater than sign. And you will notice that it did not ask me for password, but that is not acceptable. I cannot just go and do all that configuration and leave my router hanging without a password. I don't want this. So I'm going to come and password this environment. I will lock it down. I'll put padlock so that when next we are coming, it will ask us for password. So let's do it. So before we do that, let's give this router a name, guys. So if you recall in our switch class, where we are right now, we cannot give this router a name. If you want to see all the commands in this prompt right now, just press shift shift question mark, or just get question mark on your keyboard. So look at the question mark here. This question mark is showing me all the commands that are available at this environment. It shows me all the commands that are available. So here you will not see anything that has to do with naming of this router. You can see almost all these commands that are here, we're going to make use of them as we proceed in this training. So right now, I get to change RAM. I need to move to another level before I can name this router. And where I need to move to, I need to move to privilege mode. And how do I get to privilege mode? Look at the command here. If we type enable now, it will turn on privilege commands. So right now, I'm going to go here and say enable. Enable. Let me expand this. I hope you guys are seeing this. Let me expand the fonts. Okay. So you should see better now. I've expanded this. So I type enable command. You can see that we are now at where? Privilege mode. So please note the difference between the two. This environment is called user executive mode. User executive mode. By the time we type enable, the router will bring us to privilege mode. Privilege mode. So in this privilege mode, what are the things we can do here? We can check it out now. All I need to do is just to press that question mark again. So you can see that I have plenty things I can do here. Anytime you see this more, You can press enter keyboard. If you want enter key, if you want to see the commands line by line, like now the next line, the next line, the next line. But if you want to see everything remaining there, just press your space bar and it will show you everything. So right now, where we are right now, there is nothing in all of these commands that will help me to name this router. Nothing. You're not going to see any commands that will help me to name the router here. And so what do? I need to move to the next level. These are all the things I covered in our switch configuration. So where do I go to? I need to go into global configuration mode. And this is the command that I need. Most of the changes you do on your router, your switch, are done at global configuration mode. So I will type configure, but I can't stop there. I have to say configure terminal and hit enter. Ladies and gentlemen, if you take a look at my prompt right now, my prompt has changed again. Where we have config in bracket, and this is called global configuration mode. The moment you get to this environment, you've got the keys to the kingdom. You can begin to do and undo from this environment. So now where we are right now, if I want to see commands available at this prompt, I press question mark, and then I can begin to go through all the commands. So what am I trying to do? I want to name this router. Look at the command here. Don't forget we're in command line. Everything we are going to be doing on this in this environment is by commands. Everything commands. And you're going to get used to this. The more of this configuration you do. Once you are doing the assignment, you do it the first time, you do it the second time. I always recommend doing a lab 3 times. You do your assignment minimum of 3 times. You're going to get this thing. You're going to master this thing. So now I've seen the command I need. It is called host name. So by the time I type this host name, and then what is the name I want to give this router? So let's name this router Cisco Guru. Let's say Cisco Guru. What's out? The moment I hit enter right now, the name of the router will change to Cisco Guru. If I hit enter right now, you can see that my router host name has changed from router to Cisco Guru. How did we achieve that? We brought out a command called hostname. Or let me say, we issued a command called hostname. And the moment we put the command and hit enter, the name of our router has changed. The name of our router has changed. That is the first thing we need to do. We name the router. We name the router. So now, the next thing I want to do is this. You realize that our users mode was not passworded. And we don't want that. How do we password our users mode? Watch out. We go to the console ports where we are plugged to. You say line console 0 because there's only one console port. Line console 0. I will hit enter. By the time I hit enter, my prompt will change to config line. This is called line configuration mode. Line configuration mode. We are now inside the console port. So what do I want to do in that environment? I want to put password in that environment. And the command to put password then is password. Let's say Cisco. Password Cisco. I will hit enter. If I stop there, my job is not done. I have to say login. Log in. You fetch this command in that console port. I will hit enter. Just 3 lines of commands. Let me show you those commands again. Do show history. Do show history. Look at the command. Line console 0. Password Cisco. Then login. 3 lines. It is different from the host name. Host name is just one command. Just 1 line of command. Host name. Then you put the name. But this time around, as we want to password the line console, so that when next we come back, the router will ask for password is 3 lines of command. You enter the console port first, you issue the password command and put the password, and you say login. If I get out of this environment right now, save my job, and try to come back into this router, you will see that the router will ask me for password. Let's try it. So now I want to go and save my work. I need to go to privilege mode. I can decide to save here, but I'm going to show you guys as we proceed. So I need to go to privilege mode. There are two ways to go to privilege mode. Let's try the first one first. I'll type exit. Exit commands take you a step back. I repeat, exit command takes you a step backward. So if I hit enter right now, you see we're in global configuration mode. If I type exit again and hit enter right now, then hit enter again, we are now in privilege mode. So this is where we started the journey before we move to global configuration mode and line configuration mode. So see where we are right now. I want to save my job. What do you want to save? Our configuration that we just did. Because if I don't save it and this router goes off, everything is gone. How do I save the job? Why will everything disappear? Because everything we're doing right now, guys, is in our RAM. Every single thing we are doing right now is in the RAM. We want to move it or want to make a copy and put it in NVRAM. This is random access memory. It is volatile, meaning power goes off, everything disappears. This is non-volatile random access memory. Anything we save in this NVRAM, even if we restart the router, even if labor takes light or whatever happens, everything is still intact. So we are going to make a copy of what is in this RAM into the NVRAM before we log out of our router and try to come back and see what happens. So how do we do that? Don't forget we're in command line, always using command. So we're going to say the command is copy, running config, running, is it double A? Yeah, running config. So take note of this, running config. All our configuration that is in the RAM is referred to as running configuration. Everything we are doing right now is in the RAM. And all of those configurations, both the default one and the one we are adding, they are all called running configuration because they are running now. That's the active configuration we are using to work now as we are here. But then we want to make a copy into the NVRAM. So we're going to put it into the NVRAM. So the destination is startup config. So we're simply telling this switch, everything you've got in the RAM right now, can you please make a couple of it and put it in the NVRAM and name it startup config? So the backup, the one in the NVRAM is called a backup configuration file, or we call it a startup configuration file. So if I issue this command right now and hit enter, the router will ask me, the file name at the destination, this is what I want to name it. If I'm not in agreement, I'll give a different name. If I'm in agreement, I'll say I'm good. And then hit enter. And then once it shows you building configuration and says okay, it's done making a copy of your configuration from RAM into the NVRAM. There is an old command that does the same thing. It's called write. Write. If I just type write, it will do the same thing we just did right now. And hit enter. It has done the same thing. So now, if I get out of this router and come back later, you will see that the router will ask me for password. Let's do it. I will just type logout. I can type logout, I can type exit. Now I'm out. I'm out. I don't need to restart the router. I can just log out. It's like your normal computer. When you say log out, next time you are coming in, if it is passworded, it will ask you for password. If I now hit enter right now, guys, the router won't allow me to enter. It's asking me for password. But when we did it the first time, it did not ask us for password. But this time around, it's asking us for password. I said, no shaking. The password. What's the password? Cisco. And when you are typing the password, nothing will be displayed on the screen. I have already typed the password right now and hit enter. And guess what? I'm in user's executive mode. So that mode has been passworded. But watch out, so if we now want to continue the journey to privilege mode, the router will not ask for password. And that again is not accepted. We always want to password our users mode, our privilege mode at least. It's like having double defense. If somebody should break this, we still have another one. So let's do different passwords. So now I type enable, I hit enter. It gave me access to privilege mode. I don't want that. I want the router to ask me for password for both prompts. So how do we do that one? We go back to global configuration mode, guys, while we do major things. And the command to put password in that environment, that is in our privilege mode, is enable password. Don't forget, we use enable command to get to privilege mode. So we are saying whenever you see us type enable, before you give us access to privilege mode, ask us for password. So let's say class, enable password class. I hit enter. And the good news is this one is just one line of command. Just one line. I can come out of this environment right now, save my job, log out, and you will see that the router will ask me for this password. So now, instead of me going exit or typing exit a step backward, one after the other, I can just press Ctrl Z, Control button plus Z on my keyboard, and it will take me straight to privilege mode. So you will see now Ctrl Z. Ctrl Z. So I'll press Ctrl Z on my keyboard, hit enter. I'm at privilege mode. I can use my shortcut command to save. Right. I've saved. And then I said, let me log out. I want to log out. Just like we did before. We're out of the router. We want to come back in. Bam. Now the router is asking me for password. So ladies and gentlemen, there are two passwords. One is Cisco, one is class. So which one are we going to use to enter this route? We are going to give first. Let me type. You guys should type. Let me see if you guys are following me. Give me the command. What is it called? The password to use now. You can type. I'm waiting. We have two commands. We have two passwords rather. Yes. So somebody says Cisco. Simon says Cisco. Okay, Lucky says Cisco. Let me hear others. One password is Cisco. The other is class. Which one are we going to give the router now? Good, guys. That means you are following. That's nice. Okay, so let's do it. Good. So now I give Cisco first. I hit enter. We're good. Now I want to go to privilege mode. I type enable. It's asking me for another password. And then I have to go and say class. And I'm in privilege mode. Don't ever forget it. Thank you, guys. So two different passwords. One is Cisco, one is class. Thank you, guys. So we're already in privilege mode right now. So we have done three things basically on this router. We've named the router. We've passworded LAN console 0. We've passworded enable privilege mode. That's the first thing you need to do. And I'm going to show you something here. Let's take care of that before we move on. Let's take care of that. I want to see the content of RAM. Meaning, I want to see the running configuration. Why do I want to? Thank you, Mr. Simon. Why do I want to see that? I want to show you guys something. How do I see that? I need a command to see the content of RAM. I will type, watch out, show, running config. I'm telling this router, can I see what is in your RAM? That means I want to see the running configuration file. Both the defaults, that means the one that is there by default and the one we added. So I hit enter. You can see now when it says building configuration, it's trying to show you what is in your RAM. That is the configuration file. So it begins to show you some stuff that are already there. Version, you can see all of this, no service timestamp, no this, no that. We didn't put all of them, but look at what we did earlier. Host name, Cisco Guru. Who put it there? We did. Enable password, class. Who put it there? We did. So now if I go down, there are some stuff you are seeing, they are there by default. They are there by default. So if you come down here, look at LAN console 0, password Cisco, login. Who put down? We did. So there's a challenge here. Cisco will tell you this LAN console 0 password that we are seeing here. If somebody is behind me right now, they can say, hey, so this guy's console password is Cisco. Cisco doesn't want you to, they don't want that. Then if you scroll up again, you can see that our privileged mode password is also clear text. It's not encrypted. Cisco doesn't want that. Best practice, this thing should be encrypted. We want a situation whereby if somebody is watching behind you, they can't make sense of whatever they are seeing as your password. So we want to encrypt our password. So the first one we want to encrypt is the one for line console 0. And what we want to do right now will also be applicable to line VTY when we do it later. So watch out now. I don't want people to see this my my console password. How can I encrypt it? The command to encrypt, I'll go back to global configuration mode. All I will go to say is service password encryption. Look at that command. Service password encryption. If I hit enter right now, this password, this Cisco password you are looking at right now, will be encrypted. So if somebody is behind me, they don't know that that is Cisco. Let's do it. Let me hit enter. Hit you that command again. Show running config. Go down, go down, go down. Guys, you can see what has happened because of that command. I issue service password encryption. It encrypted my line console password. So if somebody is looking behind me right now, they don't know that my password is Cisco. So the password has been encrypted. Unfortunately, it's a weak encryption. That is called MD7. This is cybersecurity stuff. So if somebody has, there is a software called Cain and Abel. If you're able to copy all these numbers out and put it in Cain and Abel, it will display Cisco to you. But at least it's still better. So what we did right now, we issue service password encryption. But watch out, that command did not, sorry, it actually encrypted our privilege, but it didn't give us a strong encryption. Do I go there? Yeah, let me just take care of that one. So level 7 encryption is not strong. So our enable password also has been encrypted. But this encryption is not strong. So for privilege mode, we have another option. We have another option that we can use, or let me say we have another command that we can use to make a stronger encryption. So we'll go back to global configuration mode. I will now go and say enable secret. Remember when we put password of privilege mode, we said enable password. But this time around, we are going to say enable secret. We want this router to encrypt the privilege mode password with a stronger encryption. So I'm going to say class. Let's change the password because you don't complain if you don't change the password. Class 1, or let's say class 2. The other one is regular class. Yeah, let's say class 2. So what is going to happen, guys, if I hit enter right now? The normal password we have for privilege mode before is class. This password now we overwrite that one. It will override that one. So when next we are coming to enter this router and we want to access the privilege mode, our privilege mode's password will not be class, it will be class 2. So in the future, when you see me doing any configuration for you guys, I will not going to even use enable password. I will just go straight to enable secret. But I'm explaining it to you guys right now because we're just starting the journey. So if I hit enable secret now, class 2, you will see what will happen. I will hit enter. If I go back to my global, my RAM, now look at it here. I have 2 different passwords here. One is MD5 encryption. MD5 is stronger than MD7. MD7 is a weak encryption. So one is MD5. This is way stronger than this one. So there are 2 passwords to privilege mode here right now. One is class. The other one is class 2. One is encrypted with MD7. One is encrypted with MD5. So this one with MD5, we overwrite the one with MD7. So when next we are coming to this router, we are going to use class 2, which is encrypted with MD5. So if somebody should copy this right now, the person has to work very hard before he can break our password. So you need to be aware of that. So all your password should be passworded. MD7 for your line console 0 or your line VTY by using service password encryption. And for your privilege mode, you can just say enable secret. and that will give you MD5 encryption, which is a stronger encryption algorithm than the MD7. These are stuffs you need to be aware of, and you need to master them. Hope I'm communicating. Please give me thumbs up if you are flowing with me. We are moving gradually. I'll give room for questions, guys. So if you have questions, don't be writing down your question. Okay, good. I'm seeing your thumbs up. Good. So we've taken care of. I'm seeing somebody raising up hand. Maybe it's thumbs up. You can't ask question now until we're done. We've taken care of line console. What is it called? Line console password. We've taken care of privilege mode password. There's another way we can enter this router. I have to talk to you guys about that. We can enter spiritually or virtually. We didn't prepare our router for that. Show running config again. You're going to see that we didn't prepare the router for that. Let's get it. Let's show it. See this place here. This thing you are seeing here. Line VTY. Line VTY. There's no password there. You know, sometimes they change some of these things. In those days, if there's no password there, you can't enter that line VTY. So we got to go into this line VTY and put password there. This is preparing the router for remote login. Meaning if somebody want to come remotely, before the router will give the person access to users mode, you got to give this router the password. So I'm going to use a different password. The normal password we use for our line console, we use Cisco. So this other one now, I'm going to use Cisco, let's say Cisco 2. So that means our password will now be 3. One will be Cisco, one will be Cisco 2, then the other one will be class 2 because the other normal class will be knocked off. So Cisco 2 is when we are coming remotely. We are not in the server room and we still want to enter our server or our router rather. As long as the router has an IP address and line VTY has been configured, we can enter. But you need to know the password to give. When you are with the router physically, you give the console password. When you are coming remotely, you give line VTY password before you get access to line to user executive mode. But the password for privilege mode is the same regardless of where you're coming from. Whether it is physical or you're coming in spiritually, it makes no difference. So let's do that. So guys, let's do it. So now, I'll go into my global configuration mode again and say line VTY. Guys, I can stay with only line VTY 0. Why do we have 0 to 4? It means 5 different people can remotely log into this router simultaneously. I can come in with line VTY 0. You can come in with line VTY 1. Another person can use line VTY 2. Another person line VTY 3. Another person line VTY 4. 5 people can simultaneously enter into this router, doing different things if you permit it. So now for me, I don't need all the lines. I just want one line. So I'm going to say line VTY 0. Look at the prompt, just like what we saw with line console 0, but this time around, we're not inside console port. We're in a spiritual port, line VTY. So my student asked me a question, what is the full meaning of VTY? I said virtual terminal line. What about the Y? What is the Y for? They never told us what the Y for. This is the age of AI. Maybe we can do that research. Virtual terminal lines. That's what we call line VTY. Okay, it's virtual. We come in remotely. So I can now say password Cisco 2. Then log in. And then I can come down, save my job. So if I go through this router right now, there will be 3 different passwords that we're going to be using. Let me show you something again. Show running config. Go down. You will see that this is our line VTY password. Because we have already issued that command, service password encryption, this one also will be encrypted. You can see it there. Even though the encryption is MD7, we don't have any choice. So our line console 0, MD7. Line VTY, MD7. So you can see we only configure line VTY 0. 1 to 4. We didn't bother about 1 to 4. So how did we get these things encrypted? Because we said service password encryption. Look at it here. Service password encryption. It will encrypt our line console 0 password with MD7 encryption. It will also encrypt line V2I password with MD7 encryption. Even our privilege mode, it did that for us. But thank God we have opportunity to move higher to a different level. That is why we did enable secret. Enable secret command gave us MD5 encryption for privilege mode, and that is what you have in here. And all it is you need to do. So now there are 3 different passwords. And we're going to demonstrate now. So now I have configured line console 0. I have configured line V2I. I have changed the name of this router. And I have also configured privilege mode password. What next? We can change the time on the router and the dates. Thank you, Boniface. We can change the date on the router. We are not satisfied with the date is not correct. We are not. Let's check the date. Show clock. This one, I always miss one thing or the other. You can see the time here. This router is showing up 1993. That is not correct. We can change the date. Okay. So I think this is, I can't remember, script clock sets. Now you see sometimes I'm using question mark. Once you know the beginning of a command or what you are trying to do, question mark can guide you to continue that journey. So I have just put clock. It's a privilege mode. This one is a privilege mode. Set. So what next? Okay, I can set the hour, the minute, the second. So this is 08 colon 07 colon 00. So what next again? I'll press this. This is where I always make a mistake. Today is 6th of, let me see. I always forget this. I don't know whether it's month first or date. Let me try dates. Dates. Let me check it. Anytime I teach this, if I don't prepare, if I don't check that command ahead of time, I'm going to miss. I always miss this. Let me check it. Just a minute, guys. Okay. There's no, so today is 10th June 2026. Hope is correct. Good. This is thank God for AI. I just confess my sins to you guys now. I just use AI to check the command. So look at the command right now. Clock set, I said the time, 8 colon 707 colon 00 10th. That is the day first, followed by the month, then followed by the year. So if you go back and say show clock right now, you see that the time has been changed. You can see now. The time has changed. So you need to be aware of that. So one more thing, if this will be the second to the last thing, actually. So I can set what we call banner. I think that one is global configuration mode. Banner MOTD. Banner MOTD. So meaning what? When there was somebody coming to my router for the first time, or myself, what do I want to see? I want to see this is a no go, maybe area of zone or something, just something scary. This is a no-go zone or something like that. Now, if I come down here, save my job, log out of this router, you're going to see. If I'm coming back again and hit enter, you can see what we just did here. So you write something that will scare the bad guys, even though they may not guess, not all of them will be scared. You can say unauthorized access is prohibited. If you happen to log into the router, you'll be prosecuted and all of those kind of long story. I heard about one guy, I don't know if it's a true story, but you can check it online. When he logged into the router of the company remotely, He was able to do damage to the company. They got him, they sued him to court. He said they didn't put banner MOTD. So you don't put, you are welcome, do as you please on my router as your banner MOTD. So you have to put something scary there. Okay, guys. So don't forget that. So I'm back to the router. So we set clock, we set banner MOTD. So in order for me to demonstrate I want you to demonstrate to you guys. Look at me, guys. I need to put an IP address on this interface of this router. This router interface does not have an IP address, and the interface is disabled by default. Because if there is no IP address, I can't telnet in order for me to demonstrate telnet for you guys. So I'm going to go into this interface right now. Put an IP address, activate the interface, and you will see that all this red thing you are looking at here, they will turn green. The reason why they are showing red here is because this interface is disabled. So take note, the interfaces on your switch are on by default. They are activated by default. But the interfaces on the router are disabled by default. So you got to put an IP address and activate those interfaces. So now I'm going to go into this router that are connected to my LAN. So I don't know the interface. So let me activate the interface, the port number, so you see what we got there. Okay, so this is gigabit 0/0/0. So I'm going to go into that interface. Please watch out. Follow me carefully of that router. How do I access that interface? It's command line. Don't forget we're still in command line. All our job is being done at command line. I'm going to go back to my global configuration mode and say interface gigabit. Now you see that most of the times when I write command, the thing used to complete as if I'm a fast type and type is no. I use tab key. Tab key helps you to complete a command. Once the router knows that, oh, this is what you are trying to do, press tab key, it will help you to complete it. So gigabit 0/0/0. That is the port we want to enter. Port is the same thing as interface. We've talked about that. We use that word, those words interchangeably. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you another interface or another prompt. Config if. Config if. This is called interface configuration mode. Interface configuration mode. So what do I want to do in this port? I am inside that port now. I am sitting down there. To give that port an IP address. And since we're in command line, everything has to be done by command. I need to use IP. I need to use command. So the command is IP address. I'm telling that interface, you know what? I'm giving you an IP address. And let's just give this interface 200.100.100.1. Then something called subnet mask. Somebody will say, how do I understand this IP address and subnet mask? Don't worry, we're coming to that. From our next class, that's what we're going to be dealing with. We're going to be talking about IP addressing. Then you understand this. So for now, just do copy and paste. That means you should cram what I'm doing about IP addressing. So now I have given this interface an IP address. But this interface is done by default. It's not active. How do I activate it? You say no shutdown. It was shut down. It has been shut down. It has been in a shutdown state. I'm activating by saying no shutdown. I will hit enter. If you go back to that main design, you will see that that interface has turned green. This interface has turned green. And this switch now, this interface too will soon turn green. So this interface turned green because we activated the interface. And we did not just activate that interface. We gave the interface an IP address and we said no shutdown. And then the interface turned green. So with that, I can from any of my computers here in the organization, logging into the router without going to the server room and sit down with the router. What you are seeing in this place now with this console connection, you must be in the server room. So by the time this thing is up, we'll just give these computers IP addresses and we'll demonstrate that. So you see we're giving the router 200.100.100.1. And then we gave this subnet mask 255.255.0. So now we're going to come to this computer and maybe give this computer 200.100.100.2. Give another computer 200.100.100.3. Then the same subnet mask. And tell them about their default gateway. What is the default gateway? Any IP address on the router is what is giving this computer access to go to the internet. That interface is called a default gateway. Any IP address on that interface is a default gateway. So the computer will have their own IP addresses. If they don't know about the IP address of the router that is connected to them on that local area network, they can't go out to the internet. Take note of that. Your computer will, okay, let me show you guys something here. Let me show you guys from my command line. I already pin my command line here. If I say IP config now, IP config, go to my wireless. I'm using wireless. Look at my IP address here. Look at my subnet mask here. Look at my default gateway here. Both IPv6 default gateway and IP version 4. So if my computer does not know about this default gateway, you are not going anywhere. You can only play with people in your local area network that are connected to the same switch on you. You can't go to the internet. The default gateway, that's the IP address on your router. Your computers, all the computers in your local area network must know about your default gateway. So we're going to do that right now. Oh, sorry. I hope I've not closed this packet tracer. So we're going to go to these computers right now. Give them their own IP addresses. So I'm going to go to this first computer. So I click it. I'll go to desktop. I'll go to IP configuration. I say, okay, you are 200.100.100.2. The moment I click subnet mask, the computer knows, I'm on the same network with that guy now. Then what about default gateway? 200.100.100.1. That is our router. We're telling this computer, if you need to get out of this local area network, the only person that can help you to get out is your router, and this is the IP address of the router. What about DNS? We don't have DNS on this network for now, but we can just put DNS, maybe 4.2.2.2. That is one of Google's DNS IP address. I'll go to another computer, go to desktop, go to IP configuration. I'll say you are 200.100.100.3. Subnet mask. Default gateway. Who is our default gateway? The router, which is 200.100.100.1. Then DNS. We don't have any. Let's just put imaginary DNS there. 4.2.2.2. And we're good to go. So right now, we're done. So these computers that I have on the network right now, can they talk to my router? Let's find out. I can go to the computer, go to command line, and ask this computer, you know what? Can you talk to the router? Who is the router? If I say IP config here, you're going to say, oh, this guy's IP address is 200.100.100.2. This is his subnet mask. This is his router. That is the exit out of this network. Can you talk to your router? You say ping. Don't forget, ping is a test command. 200.100.100.1. Now hit enter. You can see that this guy can ping the router. Once you get reply, successful reply, 4 packet was sent, 4 was received. We lost nothing. It's good. So what about the other computer? You too, can you ping your router? Let's find out. Do you have an IP address in the first place? IP config, because if you don't have IP address, you don't belong to this network. Oh, you have 200.100.100.3. Your subnet mask is 255.255.0. Your gateway, your router, 200.100.100.1. Can you ping that guy? Let's check it. Oh, beautiful. As long as these computers can ping this router, the two of them, they can pass through the router to go to the internet if there's internet connection on that router. And any of these computers can telnet, and that is what I want to demonstrate. If I cannot ping the router, I can't telnet to the router. Ping is a layer 3 protocol. Telnet is a layer 7. If layer 3 is not working, forget about layer 7. Layer 3 must be intact. I must be able to talk to the router before I talk about layer 7. So since my computers can talk to this router, we can from this. Now, pinging is different. So we are just testing for connectivity. What if I want to log in into the router and I don't want to go into the server room? Nothing spoil. I will just say telnet. Telnet is an application layer protocol. When we get to layer 7, we're going to talk about this. Telnet SSH. Telnet 200.200.100. I'm sorry, the 100.1. I'm simply saying, you know what? Can you grant me access to that router? I want to configure the router. I want to go to the command line of the router. And if the router has been configured for remote login, either Telnet or SSH, it will give us access. By the time I hit enter right now, you see that the router is asking me for password. Now, there are two passwords to access users mode I told you guys. One is Cisco. The other one is Cisco 2. The Cisco one is when I'm logging in physically. The Cisco 2 is when I'm coming remotely. So what am I going to give to this particular router now? As it's asking me for password, I will give Cisco 2. This is Cisco 2. Bam. I'm in the router. I am not in the server room physically. I'm probably in one of the buildings on campus. As long as the router is reachable, I can log in into that router. Even if I'm outside of the organization, as long as, and guys, I forgot to show you this. This is a no-go zone. Even if I'm not in the organization, as long as that IP address is reachable, if it is a public IP address, if it's not a public IP address, we do what is called port forwarding. We do port forwarding between public IP address and private IP address. Anywhere I am in the world, I'm at home. It does not matter where I am in the world, I'm at home. So now we are in the router. All right, so can we go to privilege mode? Enable. The password for privilege mode is the same, regardless of where you're coming from, which is class 2. And we're in the router. And everything we're doing with the router physically, we can do with this router now. We can do our show run. And yet, we are not in the server room. This is a remote login. We're using Telnet. Because we have configured our Telnet session or line VTY rather, we're able to log into the router. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, as long as the IP address of your router is reachable, it has been configured for you to come in remotely, you will be able to access the router remotely. These are all the things I need to teach you guys as far as basic configuration is concerned. Basics of you name the router, you configure password for line console 0, line VTY, enable privilege mode, IP address on the router, and you'll be able to log in, then you set time, banner MOTD. So this is where I'm going to drop the curtain. Any question, guys? I'm going to